Hello, YouTube. Welcome to my channel, Marriage, Politics, and Sports. Today, I'll be talking about Generation Z. Not that I'm an expert, but I have a couple of videos for you. I have one with a Generation Z young lady who's having a tough time with her responsibilities. Then I have a second video from Al Jazeera talking to three young ladies from Generation Z, but they have a plan. But before we get started, like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Hit the notification bell, but hit that like button. No matter how long you stay, coming in, hit the like button, leaving, hit the like button, and leave a comment. Tell me what you think about this video. Now, I'm not going to do a lot of commentary. I'm going to do some commentary. But what I'll do is I'll make sure I link the content that I got this from into the description for both the videos. And you can go through it with a fine tooth comb and, make your own conclusions. But I spend a lot of times on these YouTube streets, and baby boomers get blamed for everything. People hate baby boomers, and most of it is unfounded. Most of it is recency bias. Most of it is, just excuses for not really achieving the things that you need to achieve. Now we're in the today and now. However, Gen Z, by far, are the spawn of Generation X, which goes over the millennials into the Gen Zs. And one of the things about Gen Z, since I'm kind of close to Generation X, Gen X's, probably the original latchkey kids, wanted to make sure that their children had a better life than they did. But one of the things they made a mistake in is not only did they want to give their kids a better life, they wanted to make their lives easier, which came with it the unintended consequence of these kids being completely entitled. And that entitlement has hurt some of them, not all of them. Now, listen, I'm a baby boomer, but I have my kids later in life. My oldest daughter is a millennial, and my youngest daughter is a Gen Zer, right there. She's a Gen Z kid. But neither one of them have the kind of work work ethic that we get from some of these ladies in this video, especially the first one. So this a contrasting kind of thing. So the first video will show you a young lady who can't made a lot of bad decisions, and she can't handle the fact that she's in Gen Z and she has to work. The other video shows three young ladies, and the full length video had a couple of guys on it, but I'm gonna just show the first part so you can go and look at the whole thing on your own. The second video has some ladies who had a solution to work-life balance, and some of it made sense. They still didn't get into how they can really afford. They act like they're kind of seemingly saying that they could afford to live a little, make a little less money, so their lives could be a little less stressed, right? So they didn't really get into all of those details, but I kind of dig where they're coming from. So without further ado, I'm gonna start and stop the first video with the young lady who has all kinds of trouble, just coping. And it's kind of sad, but it's just the way it is. So we'll get to that right now. So bear with me. I'm going to jump into her and you tell me what you think.
Not being able to afford to live got very popular, and at this point all of the comments are just like people being mean. Honestly, people like, oh, deal with it, oh, you only have to work 40 hours a week, you don't even have it that bad. And uh, like people really just assuming like that I'm lazy, and I am really amazed. I'm amazed, and I feel so bad for these people. Like, that's why I'm not taking it to heart. That's why it's not offensive to me whatsoever, because all of these people have been raised or conditioned to believe that this isn't normal, that they should be working 70 hours a week, you know? And like, that's awful. I am so sorry to all of you who are working harder than I am and still not making it.
You're a business owner who's stuck at 6 figures, you're burning out, working 10 hours a day, and you can't get free.
And I am so sorry that the way that you need to cope with that is to be mean to other people. Like, if that's what you got to do to get through life, you do you, you know? Like, if commenting mean things on young people's TikToks, if that makes you happy when the rest of your life sucks, like, go for it, I guess. But just know that, like, I am truly really sorry. I feel really bad for you that this is not only what's happening in your life, but like, you think that you deserve it. And I just hope that there's a day where everyone just gets to be happy and doesn't have to shit all over everybody else, you know? It's just some thoughts.
So let me stop her right there. First, she's talking about everybody else have to work 70 hours. She's actually crying about working 40 hours a week, not 70, but 40. And so this is a young woman already in a conniption over just having a job. And so as we go through the video, you're going to see her decompose into the sniveling, entitled young lady who made some bad choices on where to live and how to spend her time and those kind of things. And I don't want to really shit on her in terms of, and I think this is indicative of a lot of Gen Zers who want to strike out on their own. They don't want a man. They don't want somebody to, cover them. They want to be on their own. And now she's getting a taste of life, being on your own. They don't want to stay with their parents, right? Because they're strong and independent and they don't need no man or anything else. And so she's getting a taste of that. And it's kind of bittersweet. So let's just keep going. I'm going to skip ahead. I'm going to put this, like I said, I'm going to put this link in so y'all can hear her, decompression into her psychosis. And let's just keep going to the next.
Is it that I have to work 40 hours a week just so I can have a place to live? 40 hours a week makes me $2,000 a month, and my rent is $1,660.
Well,
so there you go. She rented an apartment for almost 90% of her salary. Now, nobody asked her to do that. Nobody asked her not to get a roommate. I mean, this is just ridiculous off the surface of it. That means she didn't even sit down and do the numbers, right? So at this point, I started to think, is this woman trying to troll us just for TikTok? You know what I'm saying? Because it doesn't even make any sense. How are you going to get an apartment? Now, why would somebody even rent you an apartment when your salary is only $2,000 and it's for $1,660 a month? You know what I'm saying? So is she really on the up and up? But let's just say, let me put that to a side and just say, because she's white and happy, and you probably look pretty when she's made up, that somebody says, okay, I'll give you whatever you want. Like, you're entitled anyway. So, but let's just keep going. So I'm gonna go to the next little clip. And my man here has his own commentary. So when I put this description, you can listen to what he says, his take on it. But for the purposes of this, I just wanted to have my own little anecdotal kind of thing on this. So here we go. Her next decompression into sadness.
A month. that is something that you should have never signed up for in the first place.
I agree with him there.
So I work 40 hours a week so I can have a 2-bedroom apartment.
Yeah, you need to find a roommate fast, right? Get somebody to occupy that second bedroom.
And an extra $300 a month. Like, it doesn't cover my phone, internet, food, you know? So not only do I not have any extra money, but just working makes me so exhausted that I don't have time either. Like, I get off work at 5:30, come home, I'm just so tired. I'm so tired that, like, anything that I need to do outside of work, I then just push off to, like, the weekend. And I'm like, I'm just too tired to do this after work. I'll wait.
So now, does that make any sense to where how she's living? You know, so like I said, she's kind of crying because her life is so hard. But it's a self-inflicted wound, right? Nobody asked her to get an apartment so expensive. So how is she actually covering everything if she's in the red every month? So it sounds like, you know, mommy and daddy's taking care of her. That's just my assumption, or else she'll be kicked out and evicted, right? So she wants to be on her own so bad, but she's already made bad choices to where to live, 2-bedroom apartment where it's just her instead of an efficiency or something she could afford, right? So let's just keep going. I got some more stuff. And, you know, I mean, I sympathize with her because people make mistakes when they're young. You know, they want more, you know, stomach was bigger than, remember that saying, you know, your stomach is bigger than whatever the hell it is, you know, whatever that saying is. But, okay, so here we go. There's some more of this young lady.
Yes.
So then I end up with so much to do on the weekend that ends up having to be split into 2 days. So I have to do stuff on both Saturday and Sunday. So then I don't get a day off. I don't get a day to relax. I don't get to decompress. So it is really like working 7 days a week.
Yeah, well, you know, hey, that's my life every day.
Right? So there you go. So let's just keep going. I'm going to just jump some more to what she's saying. She's working 7 days a week. She can't make ends meet. She don't got no time off. She's griping about that. And it's, you know, the average person has to work. If you want to live, you got to work. But somehow, some way, her parents or whoever raised her didn't tell her that if you're out there, you're going to have to hustle for a living.
And I don't want to do that anymore, right? Like, I don't care how poor and miserable I would have to be, but I literally can't have a place to live without this, you know? Like, I don't know what to do. I'm not made for this.
There you go. Now there's the ultimate admission that she's not made for that, and that's her parents' fault. How could she be so unprepared for real life? You know, so I think that her parents are giving her a lesson. They're saying, listen, you want to be out there and you got to go out there and see how it really is to survive. And she's failing miserably. One more take on her, and then we'll have done with it. I'm going to put this whole video so you can see it through. You can read my man's commentary. He's a conservative pundit. And, you know, I like this guy, right? So he's a black conservative. And he's got his shit together. I like a lot of his takes. Some of them are better than others. But on this one, I
don't have the money, time, or energy to enjoy my life outside of work. And I don't know what to do about it anymore. You know, I'm so tired.
Now, this is a young woman. And she's talking about how tired she is. You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of distressing for somebody to be so unprepared for life. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to share with you the other video. And the other video is a little bit more uplifting because there's three ladies that's going to talk, and they seemingly have it. They don't have it figured out, but they have a better handle on life, and I think it's worth listening to them. Right, the first part of this video is going to be a little longer than usual, because I want you to get the intro and then so you can get the full flavor of it. So this is a fair use thing, and so I want you to get the full flavor of what these ladies have to say. So this whole video is going to be a little longer than I usually have it, but that's okay.
But are the people born between the 90s and 2010 really that difficult? Or do they have a thing or two to teach the world about work-life balance? I'm Annalise Borges, and this is The Stream.
This is Al Jazeera. There you. I got some good stuff on Al Jazeera.
In case you missed it, the generation that has popularized terms such as bare minimum Mondays, quiet quitting, and the latest lazy girl job is being required to go back to the office. I mean, we all are.
I love being a woman.
And it made me realize I don't care anymore what anybody got to say. I'ma do me.
40 hours? That's 8 hours a day. That's half the day if you factor in sleeping. When would I have time for myself?
It's not that the new generation is more difficult to work with. It's that the older generation is more difficult to work for.
From social media trends like the lazy girl job and bare minimum Monday, Generation Z is rewriting the rules of the workplace. Many are rejecting the hustle culture and current ideals of success and productivity and prioritizing life outside of work. Managers and employers say this is just Gen Z's way of opting out of responsibility. But Gen Z say times have changed and what they expect out of their careers should too. Today, we're going to dive into what is now a revolution. And to help me understand what's really happening here, I'm thrilled to welcome to the show Gabrielle Judge, the original creator of the lazy girl job trend, who encourages her nearly 170,000 TikTok followers to find meaning outside their careers. She's joining us from Denver.
So let me stop it for a second. They're going to have like subtitles, sub-descriptions on each one of these three ladies they're going to show you. So it's important that you read those because it gives you a little insight on why they think the way they think and what they're doing about it and what happened to them to transition into how they view the work-life balance. So pay attention to the banners on the bottom, read them, and, I'll let you, interpret them on your own. But I just want you to know that they're there, and it's important that you read them when they come up.
In Colorado, Caroline Felix is a writer and a gender and climate activist. She's joining us from New York. And Danielle Roberts is an anti-career coach who's joining us from Tampa in Florida. Thank you all so much for being here today. I really appreciate you joining this conversation. There is so much to talk about. So I want to start with Gabrielle, if that's okay. Can you explain to our viewers this concept that you created, the lazy girl job? What does it mean?
Yeah, so it's a TikTok trend. So there's tons of lazy girl trends out there. So that's always been super fun to watch. And so when I was watching those, I was like, well, why aren't we talking about jobs? Like lazy girl hair routines is super fun too, but let's talk about something else, right? So that's where lazy girl jobs came out of. Really, it's a term to normalize work-life balance and have better work-life balance conversations. And Gen Z really stuck to it, hence why we saw such a rise with it on TikTok.
That is fascinating. It is a very interesting phenomenon. So the whole being lazy here is just a stereotype, isn't it? Can you run us through that part?
Of course, yeah. So I appreciate that question. It's so important to hit on the lazy part too. I intentionally called it lazy because if you look at what I'm talking about, it's just work-life balance. But if you have a work-life balance conversation in a hustle culture-centered culture, right, it's lazy. So it was more calling that out in a tongue-in-cheek way.
Interesting. Danielle, there used to be a plan. We used to be told, go to college, find a job, and you will be successful. You are now an anti-career coach. Can you tell our viewers what it is that you do and what you tell your clients these days?
As a millennial, we were taught to climb the corporate ladder and check the boxes to be successful, go to school, and regular career coaches operate on the notion that dream jobs exist. And as an anti-career coach, I believe that dream jobs don't exist and that we really need to reject hustle culture and stop centering work as the most important thing in our lives. And we really need to focus on what makes us fulfilled. And we can also do that when we are in the workplace by focusing on our engagement and our energy levels.
Caroline, disrupted, difficult, demanding are just some of the words that are being used and have been used to describe your generation. Do you think that they are fair?
I don't think so. I think what we've seen, especially for Gen Zers, we've lived throughout our lives and seen how this promise that work is everything has consistently failed us. We've seen the 2008 recession and how our parents really struggled through that. We saw that during COVID, where, especially in the United States, there were mass layoffs for companies that called us their family. And that was absolutely devastating. So I think Gen Zers, after seeing how companies, see us as it's just business. It's nothing personal, especially when they lay us off. I think we are reciprocating that and just being like, well, this is a job. This is not my whole life. And once again, with COVID, we saw that we can work from home and also still have a life, that our work doesn't necessarily have to be everything. We don't have to necessarily be in the office 5 days a week and need to work 40 hours a week for our economy to survive. So I think it's not necessarily that we're lazy. It's just that we are being realistic and looking past this kind of dream landscape of work being everything.
So let me stop it right there. So that's the first place. You got an introduction to these three ladies, and it's quite obvious that they have leaned into the fact that they're going to have solutions to being able to work. Now, they don't talk about how they're sustaining their lifestyle, or if they minimize their lifestyle. If the money's not that important to them, or they being subsidized by their parents, or anything else. The first lady has TikTok. She's making money from social media. I don't think everybody's going to be able to do that. The other ladies have some other things going on, but the first lady in that other video who's crying her way through, who probably needs to move back in with her parents and humble herself, she could talk to a few of these ladies and maybe she'll learn something, so really for that last one, she has a problem because she's doing it the old fashioned way and she's certainly not equipped for it. These ladies, because they are millennials, or not millennial, Gen Zers, they came into their own pretty much right as the pandemic hit. And they're, 20 to 25, 26, millennials a little older. But that changed the landscape of how we work for everybody, not just for Gen Zers. So they probably came up with these ideas. Well, you know what? We're productive from home. We're productive without having to go to the office. So why do we have to go back? So I have one more clip from this, and I'm going to put this link in the description as
Jorge
well.
has always put the ones he loves first.
And you guys can look at it.
Dream job to a lazy girl job. Didn't have a kid.
I'm going to put this clip in there too when we get to it. And let that go. I want the question to come out first. And we can go from there.
Come from today.
So you were basically forced to stop. Back in the 1930s, economist John Maynard Keynes predicted that by 2030, people would spend only 15 hours working per week while devoting the rest of their time to arts, community, and leisure. Writer William Morris also had a similar vision for a 20-hour work week filled with pleasurable and fulfilling work. Here's Gen Z's take on this.
Mental health and work-life balance are in. Hustle culture that leads to burnout is out. According to a study conducted by Harris Poll and HR Brew, over 66% of Gen Zers are not vibing with their come back to work policies, and they're considering hitting the road. A UK study of over 60 British companies trialing a 4-day work week resulted in sustained levels of productivity and increased levels of employee retention. And now the girls are following suit. The US, Japan, New Zealand, and Iceland, among other countries, are trialing their own 4-day work weeks. And surprise, surprise, the result is happier workers.
Happier workers. Caroline, 4 working days per week, that's a very different world with very real implications. Do you think the world is ready for that?
I think certainly. Once again, during COVID, we saw our labor market completely transform in a matter of weeks. And the world didn't blow up. We survived. Our company survived. So having flexibility for workers isn't the end of the world. And I think our economy certainly is adaptable to doing so. And I think to your point as well, something that the pandemic also demonstrated is that when we talk about work and labor, there's definitely a bias towards productive labor over reproductive labor. And productive labor is usually wage labor, the labor you get paid for. Reproductive labor, such as keeping the house clean, taking care of kids, cooking, which tends to be gendered, is undervalued. And something we also saw during COVID is actually a lot of mothers did not return to the labor market because the kind of labor inequality was really emphasized. So I think when we think about, let it be John Maynard Keynes' theory about hopefully having a much shorter work week, also considering the gendered aspects and how a shorter work week and kind of valuing labor also allows all people of all genders to fully engage in the labor market in a way that kind of honors, productive labor and the work that we get paid for, as well as the work that doesn't get paid, but certainly keeps our economy alive. None of us would be here if we didn't have parents, mothers in particular, that took care of us, fed us, and provided childcare. So along with the labor that they're doing to get a paycheck and put it on the table.
Gabrielle, what?
Let me stop it right there. So the last girl said a lot of good things, and there's a lot of undercurrents in what she said about the reproductive labor, the labor that the feminists tell you ain't worth anything. If you have to nurture children, keep your house up, and raise them. She kind of alluded to the fact that you got to put that into perspective with the labor you get paid for, because all of these women are not going to just be motherless. And some of them are going to have husbands. And even though they didn't get into the relationship part of it, you get a look-see into what the sister was thinking about. Now, she ain't speaking for all of them, but that's not part of this conversation. It's just how women are going to navigate the new landscape as Gen Zers. Now, this particular thing from Al Jazeera has a couple of guys coming up, and she asked them similar kind of questions. But you can go, I'm going to put the link to this in the description, and you can go back and check out this whole video. It's like 15 minutes long, 16 minutes long. But I wanted to give you a feel for, the Gen Z lifestyle. I think these ladies, the first lady, and these ladies here gave you a good idea of what Gen Zers are going for. One lady didn't have a solution at all, and the other ones did. So yeah, they're entitled, right? But what can we do about it? If you're a baby boomer, you can't do anything about it. You could just be a mentor if they could ask you questions, but you can't answer the questions they might have for you. If you're a Gen Xer, you're the one who pretty much precipitated the fact that a lot of these kids are entitled. And all we can do is lean into their innovations. Now, that's what I think, because we all know, doesn't matter what generation you're in, it seems that the landscape of how we work and with AI and all these things coming towards us, the way we look at the workforce and how we're going to feed our families is evolving. And so the Gen Zers are going to be a part of that evolution. That's how I look at it. However it plays out, the only thing they can't do is whine and cry about what they have to do, because you have to somehow navigate the new waters. So the first lady, the first girl, is completely unprepared. And if her parents are still alive and her bedroom is still there, she give up this apartment, move back in with her parents, make a deal with them where she could save her money and look at it from a different perspective. Keep her job, though. Don't quit your job, but keep that job and stack your bread. And then when you move back out, either find yourself a man to cover you because you look like you can't make it on your own. Find somebody, fall in love, get married, and go back out there with somebody who's covering you, because it's clear that no matter what she does, she can't make it on her own, because it's just going to happen again, no matter what. The price of, you're going to be trading hours of dollars for dollars, and she doesn't seem to be able to cope with that. So maybe, I'm not saying she's just a housewife, but somehow she got so entitled that she missed the fact that you got to earn your living in this life. And well, maybe she should meet these three ladies who have a solution to it. Well, with that, I'll tell you guys, the Gen Zers are here, and the one thing that they do take advantage of is the fact that their grandparents have them covered, even if their parents don't, if their grandparents are still alive. So, and I think they take full advantage of that as well, but that wasn't a part of the video. But with that, our pain, marriage, politics, and sports, over and out.